Hello, I'm Isaac. I'm here doing another tool review as part of my series where I review AI coding tools and agents. Today, I'm working on the Gemini CLI. I've had a lot of screenshots on my desktop that are unnamed. They build up pretty quick, as well as screen recordings. I thought I could use the Gemini CLI to rename them, have them sent to the Gemini app, since it does a really great job with multimodal things typically, rename the files for me, just clean it up, and then build a desktop app. I have a little app where I can go in and clean things anytime I want. That was the goal. I'm doing this as part of research and preparation for my context engineering for coding course, which is about how to get the most out of these coding tools. I've got a lot of really great stuff there. There's also a lot of really great stuff that I'm doing for free, such as this. This is at aicontextengineering.com. That's ai-context-engineering.com. And then the course is available, and I'll put a little banner up if you're interested in that. But there's going to be plenty of free material. This is what my desktop looked like when I started. I took some screenshots as I go. As you can see, there are a lot of screenshots. I try to name them as I go. As you can see, I don't do a very good job. Only a few are named. And I wanted to clean this up. So I went to the Gemini CLI. I opened it up. I just pretty much asked it to do it for me, seeing can I just use the Gemini CLI without building anything to just clean it up? And it did. And so you'll see it read some screenshots. It was reading screenshots. It was coming up with names. I looked at a lot of the names. The names made sense. So it was doing them fairly well. As you can see here at the bottom, when it was renaming, it's the start. Was asking for permission for things, which I like. I had the option to tell it to always allow it or allow once or whatever I wanted. So that's always very nice. And it also worked just well with these .mov files, these screen recordings. The videos worked great too, and they had good names. I did find that it didn't keep track of its task very well. It told me I renamed all the screen recordings you asked for, and I told it do an ls grep screenshot. You'll see there's more to do. It did this. It saw a whole bunch, and yeah, there's a whole bunch it didn't do. So I had to remind it a few times as I went to keep going, and ultimately it didn't. I didn't finish them all. It wasn't super important, so I didn't want to keep reminding it. Cool. One thing that I turned over and I said, okay, let me build a desktop app. Now that I can see that I could use the Gemini CLI to rename these screenshots, I think I probably do that on several cases. It'll be useful for me. I turned over to building an app. I hadn't really built a desktop app. I've done a lot of web dev stuff. I haven't built like a serious commercial app for desktop, so I thought that would be interesting to learn about and to try. As I was going, there was a couple things that were interesting. First, I thought it was really nice that when it asked to do things, I could allow the change. Again, I have the option to allow once or allow always, but I could also say modify the diff in the external editor. And I have VS Code, Cursor, and Vim installed. I went ahead and Cursor, and I could apply that to the settings. And once I did that, it opened the diff in Cursor, and so I was able to actually edit things before accepting them in my IDE of choice. And so that was really nice. I quite liked that. As it went, it did make this planning step, which was very nice to see. Claude Code does this as well. It did end up with a working app, and these screenshots that I'm going through now were actually named with this. Working might be a strong word because there's a lot of bugs with it. I can run the app, I can get it going, navigate to a directory, I can select all, hit suggest names. I get these, apply the names, and it works. And it does rename the files, so that's great. However, once I suggest names, I can't seem to go to another directory and do it. I have to stop and restart it, so it's very buggy. I can't seem to select individual ones, even though these checkboxes are supposed to allow it, so that doesn't work. I can either select all and rename them all or none of them. As you can see, these names are populated here, but the boxes aren't checked. So there was a lot of bugs. Maybe I can go back and forth. I'm not too surprised by it, given the level of effort that I put in. It did get working. This is where I would think I want to learn a little bit about it. Maybe I jump in or we can understand it a little bit more. I wasn't blown away by the coding, but it did work. It had some logging, and so you'll see it. I prompted it to add some logging, and it did add that logging. And when I was looking through the code, there was several things that are common in all these models that I don't like. Probably the most egregious is there was a lot of cases like this where It just had a try except where it would print an exception. So on the left, it's an API error where I don't know that it makes sense just to log that it failed. Like it should be doing something a little bit more, maybe a retry or something instead of just a general thing, but I can forgive that. The one on the right is a little bit more egregious. You can't see it in the screenshot. Unfortunately, I cut it off. Let me see if I can find that. But it was actually, yeah, trying to get the Gemini model. And this is using Gemini 1.5 Flash. If it can't get the Gemini model, the whole app can't do anything because that's how it all works. And so this is an example of where an exception actually should be raised, like, in my opinion. At least for the model, I can make the choice to do something different, but just silently failing and printing to the logs isn't great. And so it did a lot of these, like, general exception blocks to catch things, and I don't know if some of the bugs were having exceptions that were being caught, which was causing it not to crash, but there was things like that. Overall, I could see how this worked. You can see the try except again, and then another exception here, and yeah, then another one. And so you could see that the code's okay. It was helpful because I've never learned it, so going through the code to understand it was interesting to me. So it was helpful to learn this framework. This is using this custom Tinctor framework, so that was cool. But yeah, if I was gonna really build this app out, I think I'd toss this and start over with what I've learned rather than continue on with this. So I guess in summary, yeah, I think the Gemini CLI is going to be useful for a lot of the multimodal stuff. I also find the Gemini models to be the best at like writing content, and I'm probably going to continue to use the Gemini models and potentially the Gemini CLI for writing content. And I think this ability to very easily and better than other models to pull in the screenshots and the movies will be really nice because I can take screenshots of things and grab them and then bring those into context and then have it write stuff and write markdown and based off of them. So yeah, some good stuff, some bad stuff, but that's what I found.